You know, they're selling you all wolf tickets, people. You're eating them right up.
Hey, pussy, are you still there?
I back. Trust me, I back.
But I'm not impressed by your performance.
You'll do nothing. You'll do nothing. Shut your fucking mouth, you'll do nothing. You'll do fucking nothing. Not one of you'll do nothing.
I'll tell you what, bro. You know, I was out there, I was fighting all the hitters, bro. You ain't fought no hitters.
Come on, guys. It's normal.
I'm not saying I would fight you. I would kill you.
John, do you think, John, do you think I'm just gonna sit there and let you kill me, John? I mean, really.
No, don't be scared, homie.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the fuck he wants.
I am gonna beat you into the living death. I mean, maybe that's your job, but where I come from, you know, people like that get slapped.
That's fucking illegal.
Nick, you just shook up the world. How's that feel?
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
Yeah, this is a simulated death match. And you haven't simulated anybody's death yet.
I said it last year. We're not here just to take part. We're here to take over.
What is the game plan going in against him?
The game plan is you go in there, hit him with some good shit, don't get hit, and come home with a pocket full of cash.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Everybody's on steroids. The whole UFC, everybody.
I'm gonna go home tonight. I'm gonna drink a Coors Light. That's a Coors Light because Bud Light won't pay me nothing.
Do you want to be a fighter? That is my question.
Yes. What is up? What is up, MCR family? Another daily edition of the show, of the podcast. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to all these platforms. Email me here, right here, mixedcombatradio@gmail.com if you want to be a part of the movement. But just to quickly, quick sort of shopkeeping, this show, this special edition, will have the MMA portion be in the front. I know, I am sorry. I'm sorry for everyone that's here for the boxing, like Elias Navarro in the chat saying I'm here only for the boxing. Sup, Matt? I'm sorry, Elias. You're going to have to either stay here and listen to the breakdown of the UFC 226 card, because let's be honest, that is the biggest event of the combat sports world this week, especially with the news that came out yesterday, which we're obviously going to get into. Hope everyone had a great 4th of July as well yesterday. We were obviously off. Hope everyone got the message. If you didn't get the message, then make sure you're subscribed to any of these platforms, because that's how you get the sort of notifications if you're not, you know, sort of clued in on my personal account, you know, at Mixed Combat Radio, all platforms, etc. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, share the show. Remember, trying to hit 1,000 subscribers before the end of the month. And also, we hit 10,000 views, or over 10,000 views, on YouTube. So salute to everyone in the YouTube families for helping out and growing the channel. But yes, let's get into it, because the news yesterday was just completely heartbreaking. And let me bring back the music again, because when it came out that Max Holloway fell out of the event, so to speak, it was deeply sad and depressing. Just want to quickly, before we get into it, shout out to everyone in the chat right now: Rabitsky, Steven Hernandez, Elias, and Oscar Martinez. What's up, everyone? You know, Ariel Helwani came out yesterday saying, breaking, Max Holloway is out of UFC 226. Obviously, there was a statement there, and, you know, I'm not going to read the full statement. But he basically, you know, went out due to concussion-like symptoms. He ended up feigning at one point and going to the ER twice this week. You know, there's a huge clip going around, not a huge clip, but there's a big, you know, a noticeable clip or notable clip going around the internet, so to speak, on Twitter and Instagram, of Michael Bisping interviewing Max Holloway on Fox Sports, and even noticing it and making note of it to Max Holloway in the interview, saying, hey, it seems like you're tired, seems like something's off, what's wrong? And he's slurring his words, he seems off. You know, obviously, you know, we're going to delve into all just the facts of the situation, how it unfolded, and then I'm going to give my take on it, because there is a lot that came out within the last 24 hours. And also a quick little, you know, fact towards, so to speak, it marks the 17th co-main event or main event change to the UFC calendar so far in 2018. It is only July, ladies and gentlemen. And it's also the 4th consecutive year of International Fight Week, which is their biggest weekend. That has lost a championship bout, and third straight during the fight week itself. So that is not good. To take a little more macro, how do we fix that as a sport, or if you're the UFC as a promotional company? I have no idea. I know guys like Luke Thomas have been talking about it a lot, how to fix it, but that is always that's a noticeable statistic right there. That something is off. Something is wrong. And we've had injury bugs like in 2014, I believe, really hit the UFC. This does happen a little bit in spurts and waves, but it's been a rising trend within the UFC. And think about it, the 17th co-main event or main event in this year alone that's been changed, and 4 years in a row of the biggest weekend of the sport. Our Cinco de Mayo, MMA Cinco de Mayo in a sense, right? Of them losing one of the marquee fights. That is not a good trend at all. And then also just bringing some more facts and situation. The UFC did try to make an interim fight between Frankie Edgar and Jeremy Stevens, but that did not end up happening. Thank God, because that would have been awful. That would not have been a good thing. And it does look like the UFC is trying, unfortunately, per Lance Pugmire, that Max Holloway and Brian Ortega is being targeted for August 4th at the Staples Center, depending on Holloway's health, of course. But before we really jump into it, or into the card itself and break it down and preview it, I think Jonathan Snowden made probably the best point that could be made about this subject. Saying brain damage doesn't pass. It's permanent and accumulates over time. The agreement that we've made as a fandom and a sport is that we won't ever talk about this. With there's so many cases in the last 12 months, 24 months, whatever it is. Percha Cologne, I think, is another prime example. CTE and brain damage in the sport is something we really don't address and talk about a lot. And I think, like Snowden said, like, it's an agreement we've sort of made. It's an unspoken agreement that we know the effects of the sport. We know that a guy like Max Holloway, who's young, who's in his 20s still, in the prime of his career, on a great run, is all of a sudden showing signs of CTE and brain damage. And like Snowden said, that doesn't go away. That's non-reversible. It's really upsetting, and just saddening in a way and I hope Max Holloway bounces back. He's a great talent, a great person in the sport. It is truly sad, and I hope he's just healthy. I'd rather never see a Max Holloway fight again and him live a long and healthy life, to be completely honest. I think us as a fandom need to start thinking in that terms. And just the sporting world is going that way. Look at what's happening in the NFL in America. Like the way CTE is now being treated, it's just changing. Things are changing in terms of perception, etc. But let's digress. Again, hope that Max Holloway is okay. Hope that he bounces back. And again, health. Health is the major thing in this sport that is sacrificed, essentially. And you don't want to see anyone have irreversible damage be done to them, even though we know it happens on a weekly occasion, let's be honest. But digressing to UFC 226, which still, without Max Holloway, without Brian Ortega, without that awesome fight, it's an amazing card on paper still. Like, it's a stacked card. When I was reviewing like what fights I wanted to actually break down and do some tape study, it was all of them basically except for one. That's the beginning fight between somebody that's 2-1 and 4-2. I have no interest in reviewing that fight or previewing that fight and breaking that one down. But every other fight on this card I liked. Every other fight on this card was a competitive matchup that, in my opinion, will most likely lead to either an exciting fight overall or exciting moments. So I think we should just delve into it from bottom to top. and discuss it. But first, we should discuss at least the main event of the TUF season 27 finale. I didn't watch The Ultimate Fighter like everyone else that's a fan of the sport. We didn't care. But the main event, Israel Adesanya versus Brad Tavares, fantastic matchup on paper. A real sort of like a barometer fight, I should say. Because if Adesanya comes in here and beats Brad Tavares, it shows that he's a top quality contender in the middleweight division. If Brad Tavares comes out here, it shows that he's just the better overall fighter. It shows that Adesanya has some time yet to really match his potential. This could be a Stephen Thompson, Matt Brown fight. Where obviously, I think in retrospect, we may think that Stephen Thompson has a better overall career, a better fighter overall as well than a Matt Brown. But Matt Brown beat Stephen Thompson. Why? Because Stephen Thompson was too green. He wasn't ready for that type of fighter that can bring an overall game plan, an overall MMA skill set into the cage. Brad Tavares is that. Brad Tavares is absolutely a guy that could wrestle, could box, could kickbox, has some Muay Thai skill, some good submission skill as well. And he's surprising at times. Yes, he's been knocked out on occasion. He has looked flat on occasion. He's been in the UFC for a very long time. Momentum is maybe not on his side. But yeah, it is definitely one of those where it's a 50-50 fight. Stylistic nightmare for probably both guys, let's be honest. Because Brad Tavares is, half of his losses are due to knockout, and you're facing one of the best strikers in MMA right now. That's unorthodox, unique, lightning fast, presents a hard sort of target for you. Yeah, I think it's a tough matchup for both men. And we've seen sort of Adesanya struggle with grapplers at times. We have. Of course he will. He's not a grappler by trait. But Adesanya should win it. Probably first 2 rounds by TKO. If it goes past the second or third round and it's not a dominant performance so far, it's competitive, look for Brad Tavares to actually turn it up and win it by decision. But I think it's more likely we see him get clipped, get swarmed by Adesanya, and just get finished overall in the fight. But a fantastic main event on Friday night on Fox Sports. So definitely go check that out. One of the better matchups of the weekend, and it's not even on the stacked pay-per-view card. So it should be a good weekend overall. And also shout out to Roxanne Modafferi on the card, one of the pioneer women in the sport of women's MMA. So just shout out to her, and Bruce Leroy Caceres on the card. Also just a notable guy to, he's been around forever, and he's definitely just been someone that's fought good guys throughout his career, beat some of them, and lost maybe most of them, but still a fun fighter to watch. But digressing to the UFC 226 card, which, like I said, I'm looking at my notes right now, and it's phenomenal. It is one of the best pay-per-view cards I've seen in a while, and especially in terms of what it could produce in terms of entertainment. Starting from the bottom and working our way up to the main event, Lando Venata versus Drakkar Klose. This, to me, should be a fun fight for as long as it lasts. Lando Venata is probably one of the guys that has so much potential, but yet, he may just be like a Donald Cerrone, where he's not going to win the best fights, but he's going to beat up guys like Drakkar Klose, who throws single shot hooks, maybe a spinning wheel kick here and there, and looks to grapple you along the cage. Lando Venata is a explosive striker that works combinations, unorthodox, and switch stances. Better grappler overall, I would say as well. I think Klose's best path to victory is to make it a little bit ugly, make it a little more of a clinch fest against the cage. Definitely not be at range with Lando Venata and allow Lando to sort of style on him. Lando can do that. He can, start just flowing with combinations with his punches and kicks that it's really hard to compete with that. But yeah, I think Lando should win by KO. I don't think it's going to go decision. I think Klose is going to be too hittable. Zero head movement. And Lando, like I said, he's going to catch him. He's going to catch him with combinations. and he has power in both hands. He can kick him. It's going to be an easy, I think, overall win for Lando, while fun because it's a Lando Venata fight. All Lando Venata fights are inherently fun. The next fight on the card, Gilbert Burns versus Daniel Hooker. Daniel Hooker being undefeated since going to lightweight. This is going to be a barn burner. I mean, out of the 29 combined wins, they only have 2 decisions amongst them, 1 apiece. Neither guy has been finished due to strikes. Like, this is going to be one of the best fights on the card that doesn't get talked about, unfortunately, because there's other more notable fights on the card. But this is a 50-50 fight. I think Gilbert Burns is going to be in Hooker's face, throwing mad mean hooks, and I think Hooker struggles with that. Hooker struggles with a guy that's able to just ignore his range, his jab, and is able to get on the inside and rough him up. Hooker usually stands a little bit too tall, but I think Hooker's just sort of rising to the occasion right now, meeting his potential. Being in the right division, not cutting that much weight, I think it's going to help him tremendously. Still the taller guy with more reach. I think it's going to be a good kickboxing fight. There's going to be good scrambles, but I think Hooker's going to outpoint him. Maybe a late fight TKO, sort of KO win after a brutal fight, but it's going to be back and forth, and I could honestly see a decision either way. I really do. I can see Burns, maybe getting enough takedowns here and there, even though Hooker can scramble out of it pretty quickly, and the strike can be relatively close, even though they're, diametrically different in style. But I think Hooker should win. I think he just has the better overall game plan, more diversity in his style and his striking skill overall. But just great fight. Again, Gilbert Burns versus Daniel Hooker. Fantastic fight. And we're only 2 fights in. The next fight on the card, Curtis Millender versus Max Griffin. I think Millender should win by KO late. While I think Max Griffin's probably a better overall MMA fighter, better grappling, of course. Faster hands. Mellender's too skilled. Like, his Muay Thai and just kickboxing ability it's devastating. Like, what he did to Thiago Alves was one of the most, gut-wrenching knockouts you've seen. And that first round, just beat down he put on Thiago Alves, too. I think Max Griffin's going to get hit with some really hard shots. Millender has a mean left hook. Even though he doesn't throw in combinations, the power he puts on it, the timing he has, the accuracy he has, I think he's going to catch Max Griffin eventually. I don't think his overall skill set, while being better, is going to be enough. I don't think him being faster is going to be enough. I think the timing of Millender and the power of Millender is going to be just too much for Max Griffin in a late TKO or KO finish for Curtis Millender over Max Griffin. Fantastic matchup on paper. Anne-Marie Rivera in the chat saying Felder versus Perry, good fight. Definitely get to that. Sunsao versus Font is under the radar. This is a good fight. Definitely get to that. Which we're going to get to next, actually, because that's next on the card. Rafael Sunsao versus Rob Font. I think in a Sunsao by decision. I think Rob Font is one of those guys where he is surprising. Good boxing ability, good overall grappling acumen. But I think a Sunsao's a little bit too sharp. I think a Sunsao's boxing has always been criminally underrated. His boxing game is one of the best in the division. He arguably outstruck Marlon Moraes. I think Rob Font had difficulty with the guy like Thomas Almeida, who's a striker, until he knocked him out. And a guy like Thomas Almeida, who is notoriously chinny. Sunsao is not that. Sunsao is a better grappler than Rob Font. Better transitions, better takedowns. I could definitely see a late fight sort of submission after a good sort of competitive fight, but I see a Sunsao win by decision. He usually is that sort of guy. Rob Font putting up a spirited effort, but just being a little bit outskilled. He may be the bigger guy, the better athlete, definitely, but a Sunsao is the better IQ, better grappling, and that's going to play a huge part in this fight, in my opinion. And I think he has the timing in his boxing and the defense in his boxing ability to really negate Rob Font's probably output, speed, length, but definitely one of those underrated fights that won't get talked about, like Anne-Marie says in the chat. But but should be. And that's the sunset of his career. Like, he's arguably the best bantamweight in UFC history that's never won a belt. And I might go on the record and say that he is the best bantamweight in UFC history that hasn't won a belt. So, yeah, I think he should be the easy pick in that, even though I think it's going to be a competitive and fun fight. The next fight on the card, though, gosh, I cannot wait for it. That's going to be insane. And quickly, I just want to show the stare down between the two. Shout out to Mixed Combat Radio. Oh, look, that's our channel. You should go follow it on Instagram. Just saying. But this is by way of MMAJunkie.com's Mike Bond. Let's give it a listen.
Ready to be a full-time commentator?
Why
you looking tough? You're not a tough guy. You're a nice guy.
Oh.
See, he's a little taller than me. Not a size advantage, just a skill advantage. Good to see you, bro. Oh, it's good to be back, baby. Ready to be a full-time commentator?
Yeah. Oh, we don't want... Oh, stop it. Stop it, Mike Perry. You stupid motherfucker. But, Johnny saying, I just came here to say Eddie Hearn, a bitch. What's up, Matt? What up, Johnny? No, that's not UFC tape. Don't worry. Johnny saying, don't play it. They might ban you like last time. That's a good one. I have to give you kudos to that. That was a good joke, Johnny. That's a good joke. Don't worry. It's not UFC footage, so I'm safe. And it's on Instagram. So, come on. They can't really ban me, right? Right? But Mike Perry versus Paul Felder, which obviously is a fight that was scratched together due to the Ally Quinta fallout with Justin Gaethje and then James Vick being moved up in that fight. So now we have Paul Felder moving up to 170, fighting Mike Perry. I think this is going to be an easy fight for Paul Felder. I think it's going to be a really fun fight, obviously. The first round is going to be, whoa. I mean, like, Mike Perry's always a first-round fighter. He's always going to throw, bombs, but that first round is going to be insane. And then the second round, I think Paul Felder is going to piece him up. I think Paul Felder is the superior striker, superior cardio, better grappling. I think Perry is going to get finished in the second round, if not the third round. And I think it could be due to strikes, whether it be on the ground, whatever, submission. Felder is going to have his way with Perry after that first round. Mike Perry's only chance of winning is to hurt Paul Felder in the first round, swarm him with shots, and get a finish. And I don't think that happens. I think Paul Felder is too tough, and I think he's too skilled for that. Mike Perry is not a great fighter. Mike Perry is a interesting character to watch that we can sort of laugh at, let's be honest. He's a character. Paul Felder is a legit fighter. This should be an easy win for Paul Felder. I expect the elbows to piece up and cut up Mike Perry too. I can see Paul Felder getting him in the clinch, kneeing him, elbowing him, and Mike Perry trying to, swing back with wild hooks to sort of counter, get clipped, and sort of get finished. Like, I think Paul Felder should win in the second round. If not, it's due to Mike Perry being a really tough competitor. We have to admit that. And then I think it's eventually going to happen in the third round. And saying Felder's hungry. I agree. And she says Perry's in trouble. Definitely agree with that. Perry. This was the wrong matchup for Mike Perry. Him fighting Yancy Medeiros would have been a much easier matchup for Mike Perry. And even that wasn't winnable. I think Medeiros would have won that one too. But, we are here. But digressing to the rest of the card. Again, Paul Felder by second round KO. If not, it's due to Mike Perry being one tough son of a bitch. And Mike Perry may be lasting the decision, but definitely a Paul Felder win. But that fight was actually moved up to the pay-per-view portion. So even though I may not address it in order of what the fights are actually going to be, that fight is going to be in the pay-per-view portion. The last fight on the Fox Sports 1 undercard portion of the event, Uriah Hall versus Paulo Costa, a.k.a. Borrachina. I think Borrachina should win by KO in the first round. I think you're going to see Uriah Hall basically kicking him, sort of outstriking him at first, and then all of a sudden you're going to see a wild left hook, right hand, whatever it may be, from Borrachina, and Uriah Hall go down, and it's going to be over. Like, maybe Uriah Hall catches Borrachina, but Borrachina's 11-0 with 11 knockouts, has looked phenomenal. Yes, he's not a high output guy, but he's an in-your-face, heavy-handed guy that doesn't stop when he has you hurt. Great striking ability as well. He may be a little more traditional Muay Thai, while Uriah Hall is a little more unorthodox Taekwondo and karate style. But Borrachina is just going to be too big and too strong. He's going to clip Uriah Hall, who is notoriously chinny, and we're going to see another highlight reel knockout for Borrachina, as should be expected. This is really not the matchup for him to be tested yet, which I'm not surprised. This is going to be a great sort of highlight reel knockout against a name that a lot of fans sort of know because of that one knockout that Uriah Hall had that went viral, let's be honest. Emery saying Hall does not throw enough. He doesn't. But I think he's the more diverse striker. You're going to see him winning with his leg kicks at first. Borrachina is really not an active guy, until he clips you. He's looking to counter you with a shot and then swarm you, basically. And that's what's going to happen. Whenever it does happen, it's going to be sudden, and it's going to be over very quickly. But don't be caught in the, Uriah Hall is, good leg kicks, good movement. Like Borrachina's just chasing him. He's not really throwing anything. And then, boom, it's going to be over. Lights out for Uriah Hall. But fun fight while it lasts. And definitely, I think, going to produce a highlight reel knockout. And even if, Borrachina doesn't win, that means Uriah Hall probably knocked him out in spectacular fashion, and Borrachina maybe not as good as we thought. That's possible. The first fight up on the pay-per-view portion of the card, kickboxing legend Gokhan Saki versus Khalil Roundtree. I'm picking Gokhan Saki by KO. And if you don't know who Gokhan Saki is, check out his Wikipedia kickboxing resume. The guy has fought everyone from Rico Verhoeven to Ray Zeffo to Semi Schilt. He's fought everyone, from Melvin Manhoef, Alistair Overeem. He's fought everyone. He may not have beat them all, but the guy is a kickboxing legend. Even though I think this matchup is a tricky one for him, I think it's actually going to be a tougher one than I think we think. Because I don't think Gokhan Saki is... I don't think he's as dedicated to being an athlete in the sport, period. I think he has obvious skill, but he really relies on his power, his timing, and his accuracy. He's not a fast guy. He's not a mover. He's a little bit of a plotter. Khalil Roundtree is at least unorthodox, fast, quick. That's the same thing. But I mean, Khalil Roundtree's hand speed is quick, and his footwork is actually pretty fast as well. I think Gokhan Saki is going to be chasing Khalil Roundtree as Roundtree trying to counter him, and we know that Roundtree has some power, and we've seen Saki get hit. Is it out of the question that Saki could lose this one? I don't think it should be. I think the hardcore combat sport fan base that's really riding high on this pickup from the UFC with Saki should sort of slow down. I think Khalil Roundtree is gonna be a tough fight for Saki. Enrique de Silva was. I mean, until he was finished, Enrique de Silva was landing some shots. He had Saki in the clinch landing hard knees. You don't think Roundtree is a much better fighter, much quicker fighter, much better athlete that's going to give Saki some trouble? He will. Saki should win it. I think he's going to clip Roundtree. He's going to finish Roundtree because we've seen Roundtree get finished. We have. But I think as long as this fight goes, Roundtree is going to be in it. And similar to the Uriah Hall Borrachino fight, it's going to be one shot, changes everything. And that's what it's going to be. Alex Santoyo in the chat saying he's good, but Joe Schilling is a good kickboxer, but not a good MMA fighter. Good example. Like Melvin Manhoef, another great example that not everyone can transition from a great kickboxing career to a great MMA career. It is different. Next fight on the card, Michael Chiesa versus Anthony Pettis. I'll be honest, this fight isn't, like, I'm not hype on this fight at all. If this fight happened maybe 3 years ago, it'd be different. But Anthony Pettis, to me, is just so faded and so past his prime. It's kind of sad to watch. Like, his last fight was still the Dustin Poirier fight where he just sort of quit because the body triangle, like, broke a rib from him. Like, he's not healthy. Michael Chiesa's the bigger guy. I think Chiesa's sort of coming to his own. While I think he could potentially get finished due to a strike by Anthony Pettis, I don't see that happening. Like, I really don't. Pettis isn't as active. He looks off the counter. He's not the athlete he once was. Chiesa should win this, and I don't think it's necessarily due to skill. I think a prime Anthony Pettis beats a Michael Chiesa, but it's just obvious that we don't have a prime Anthony Pettis. I can't count on him to win against a guy like Michael Chiesa right now. Even though Michael Chiesa just lost to Kevin Lee is Kevin fucking Lee. Like, there's a vast difference between Anthony Pettis. Jay Prodigy saying quit from broken rib. Anybody would have quit from that. But it was the way it happened. Like, it happened from a body triangle. Like, no, that doesn't happen. Like, people don't lock up a body triangle and then squeeze and pop a rib. Like, that doesn't really happen ever. It was weird. It was not the same. Anne-Marie Rivera saying Pettis is not the same fighter since RDA. Completely agree. He ruined him. I mean, that was one of those fights that he beat him up so bad he was never the same. Same with, like, June Dos Santos versus Cain Velasquez. Like, we've seen those fights where all of a sudden they're just not the same anymore. But yeah, Chiesa by decision. I don't think Chiesa's going to finish Pettis. If he does, that's a really bad sign of Pettis. I don't think Chiesa is skilled enough on the ground to really submit Anthony Pettis if they're purely grappling and Pettis is somewhat in shape and somewhat still able to compete at this level. I don't see him obviously finishing him due to strikes. So I think it's going to be a decision. Bet the house on it, so to speak. But don't really do that. And just saying, I don't want to be sued. Francis Ngannou versus Derek Lewis. Really bad matchmaking for Francis Ngannou, in my opinion. I'm picking Derek Lewis by decision in this. And it's one of those where if we see Ngannou catch Lewis in the first round, swarm him, I definitely see Ngannou winning by TKO KO. Like, that's within the realm of possibility. But the second this fight is past that first round or past the 3-minute mark, Lewis should be the favorite. He's the better grappler, even though he's not really the greatest of grapplers. He's still better than Ngannou. He is tough enough, in theory, to be able to take some of the punishment from him. Good enough of a striker and has enough power to get Ngannou to respect him, in my opinion. And plus, this is right after his first loss. Well, not his first loss, but I mean the first UFC loss for Ngannou against Stipe Miocic. And you put him up against Derek Lewis, who is a perennial sort of contender killer, I would say. He's sort of in that realm. I think this is a bad matchup. I think Derek Lewis is going to survive that first round. He's going to get clipped with some shots. He's going to clip Ngannou. It's going to be a hell of a first round. And then it's going to be kind of an ugly fight going forward. Maybe a late third round finish for Derek Lewis just due to exhaustion. Derek Lewis having that enough power to really finish a exhausted Ngannou. But this is good. This might turn out to be a uglier fight than what some fans and media members initially wanted and expected from this type of fight. First round going to be amazing. But after that, it's going to be a heavyweight fight. Let's be honest, what heavyweight fights are. And speaking of heavyweight fights, the main event, the super fight of the year so far, Stipe Miocic, heavyweight UFC champion, versus Daniel Cormier, the light heavyweight champion of the world. First off, really good matchup. This is a really fun fight. Stipe Miocic, I don't know where he ranks all time, heavyweight wise. I think we needed a little bit more from him, to be honest. Daniel Cormier, obviously being probably the second best light heavyweight of all time, and just so happened to live in the era of the best light heavyweight fighter and the best fighter of all time in Jon Jones. Obviously, Jon Jones on the picture right now, but coming back later. This fight's weird. Like it's one of those where it's a 50-50 fight. It's an intriguing matchup on paper, stylistically. It's the light heavyweight champion who, let's be honest, deserves his respect. Daniel Cormier, for a guy like Jon Jones to be out of the picture, he has really, I think, made a legacy in his career and really made a storied history in his title reign, so to speak, with Daniel Cormier. And I think this fight is a super fight. This fight is obviously two of the best fighters in the world fighting each other. But it's just, I don't know. It seems like the king is not here with Jon Jones. I know that's kind of not what people want to hear, but I at least want to mention that. It's one of those fights where it's on paper amazing. Probably the best fight you can make on paper, except the best fight on paper is probably Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic. And Jon Jones isn't here, so we are left with Daniel Cormier and Stipe Miocic. And you know what? I think Daniel Cormier is probably going to win this, even though he's a 2-1 favorite right now. I think Stipe Miocic has really done a great job of fighting the right guys at the right time. You look at his title reign and who he beat, like guys like Fabricio Verdum, half of his losses are due to KO. You look at a guy like Alistair Overeem, I think only one of his losses aren't due to KO. A guy like Mark Hunt, a guy that we all consider to be very tough, only one of his losses was due to decision. He's been finished 10 out of 11 times. I think Stipe Miocic has feasted off of a old and sort of chinny heavyweight division, like an Andre Arlovski. Like, come on, let's be honest. A Junior Dos Santos in the second fight was a Junior Dos Santos in 2017. Like, come on here. This isn't the run that, let's say, a Fedor had, right? So many guys in their prime, a Big Nog, a Mirko Krokop, etc. Like, those guys in Pride in that run, those were prime competitors. This is not that. And Ngannou was close, but let's be honest, he was another guy that had a string of only first-round knockouts. We never saw him past the second round in the UFC. He was an untested commodity. Daniel Cormier is not that. Daniel Cormier is, like I said, the second best light heavyweight of all time. I think Daniel Cormier, one, is probably the better boxer than Stipe Miocic. It's close, though. Doing a lot of tape study of them. They're similar in terms of output. Similar in terms of punch selection, even though their stances and styles are a little bit different, how they find the angles to their shot. It's jabs, 1-2s, some really good uppercuts in the clinches. Good overall dirty boxing, period, let's be honest. But Daniel Cormier, I think, is a little bit faster, throws a little bit more, a little bit meaner with his shots. And I think Stipe Miocic really thrives off of being the complete package in the heavyweight division. And the heavyweight division notoriously doesn't have complete packages. That's why a guy like Cain Velasquez did what he did, even though he obviously succumbed to his injuries and his overall health condition. But that was a complete package. And he ran through old style of MMA fighter. The specialists. DC is the overall package. He has better wrestling, better grappling than Stipe Miocic. Better boxing. Better kickboxing as well. When's the last time you ever seen Stipe throw a kick? Let's be honest. Go watch any Daniel Cormier fight. He incorporates the leg kick, has a great body roundhouse kick. Like, come on here. Like, Daniel Cormier, I know Alex and Chesney and DC's losing, y'all, with the laughing emoji face. Like, I definitely understand why Stipe could win this. Like, Stipe could just be the bigger guy that's still, like I said, the overall package that could just do enough to outpoint a Daniel Cormier. But then look at every Stipe fight where it goes rounds. He's not the guy with the cardio tank that's going to really shine and be the workhorse in the 4th and 5th round. He gets tired too. Watch the Ngannou fight again. Watch the Junior Dos Santos fight. He gets tired. He does. He's feasted off of first-round finishes. Daniel Cormier has been a proven 5-round fighter. It's close. It is very close, but I think Cormier is going to edge it slightly by decision and be a division champion. Jay Page saying on paper DC is better. Yeah, and it's one of those where it could be the X factors that cancel out the skills on paper. It could be the size. It could be the momentum of a Stipe Miocic, which, let's be honest, he is sort of riding a wave right now. I don't know if DC is at that. But fantastic fight. I think the winner of this is obviously going to be fighting John Jones in the main event. But, man, I cannot wait to see this fight. And this overall card, again, UFC pay-per-view, UFC 226. Fantastic matchups from beginning to end. I'll run through them again just for those that maybe came in late. I picked Lando Venata over Drakkar Klose, Lando by KO. I picked Daniel Hooker over Gilbert Burns by KO. I picked Curtis Millender over Max Griffin, Millender by KO as well. Rafael Assunção versus Rob Font. I picked Assunção by decision. Mike Perry versus Paul Felder, Felder by KO in the second round. Uriah Hall versus Paulo Borrachino. Borrachino by KO first round. Let's be honest with that one. That's probably the easiest one to pick on the card. Gokhan Saki versus Khalil Roundtree. Second or third round KO for Gokhan Saki after a really fun, competitive fight that I don't think anyone was expecting. And it's possible sort of breakout performance in a losing fight for like a guy like Khalil Roundtree. He could really come in here and show out even while losing. Michael Chiesa versus Anthony Pettis, picking Chiesa by decision, though I could see a late fight submission victory for Chiesa. Francis Ngannou versus Derek Lewis. Lewis by decision. That should be... It's either Ngannou by first round KO or Lewis by decision. Let's be honest. Jay Project saying, "Are you dumb?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" And then he said, "Hall gonna shock the world again." Hey, I said in my breakdown, if Hall comes out here and throws a spinning wheel kick and knocks out Borrachino, I wouldn't be surprised. I would be ecstatic and excited, but I wouldn't be surprised, right? Like, of course not. But Borrachino hasn't really shown to be chinny. Great Muay Thai ability, great explosive and knockout power, and Uriah Hall is kind of chinny. Let's be honest. Lewis by decision over Ngannou, and then obviously in the main event, Daniel Cormier by decision over Stipe Miocic in a fantastic fight to cap off a fantastic night for the UFC. Definitely can't wait to check that out. And we are going to do a live fight chat for that on Saturday. I don't know when we're going to start. I kind of want to run through the entire thing. I kind of want to run through from Lando Venata all the way up and do a live fight chat for all the fights. I will have at least one person in studio with me for that, so don't worry about that. So definitely tune in on Saturday for that. Keep your eye out. Make sure you subscribe to all these platforms to stay notified when that show is, or hit the bell icon on YouTube. It's always the best way. Jay Project saying, Matt, chinny or not, a spinning back kick is a spinning back kick. You're right. Hey, I definitely agree. But a left hook's a left hook, and a right hand's a right hand. Like, you know, it's one of those things where, man, it's just a fun fight. Like, you have to admit, Protege, that matchup is one of those fights that won't get talked about as much as it should, but it's close. It's one of those that one of them is going to knock out the other. But we only have history of one guy getting knocked out. Borachina's undefeated. 11 fights, 11 knockouts. It's hard to go against that right now. Momentum is key. Momentum is key, especially with the health concerns of Uriah Hall lately. Let's be honest about that. But digressing. For all those that wanted the boxing talk, here it is. Don't worry. I told you, first half of the show, all MMA and exclusively a breakdown practically of all the fights this weekend because they were running the show. But Alex saying, damn, if DC wins, I'll donate $25. Or you can just go to patreon.com/Mixed Combat Radio. Get our Patreon-only podcast championship rounds for as low as $1 a month. You know, $12 a year. Just saying, any little bit helps. Just saying. Jonas, keep it 100. Interesting name. Saying, Matt, don't count out Curtis Blades. He's a powerhouse with great technique. Oh, he is. Curtis Blades is one of those guys that's coming to his own, too. Jay Project saying, why can't boxing stack cars like this? Shaking my head. I
want smoke.
I know. It's ridiculous. And speaking of boxing cars, the only boxing car worth of note this weekend, let's be honest, is the ESPN top-ranked car with Jose Ramirez versus Danny O'Connor. I'm not going to break down this one as much as the MMA one. Obviously, we spent about 45 minutes on that UFC card. I'm going to spend about 2 minutes on this one. Jose Ramirez should win this. The guy that's been mentioned with Terrence Crawford, I'm going to try to pronounce his name, and I'm sorry for anyone out there that actually knows how to pronounce his name. Izidoujas Kavalaskis versus Juan Carlos Abreu. We all know who Juan Carlos Abreu is, so at least that's an interesting matchup, I guess. Andy Vance is on the card versus Frank de Alba. Andy Ruiz versus Kevin Johnson. I kind of like that comeback fight for Andy Ruiz, I'll be honest. And Gabriel Flores Jr. on the card. There's some other fighters on the card, but I'm not going to really make note because I don't really know them. But some prospects and Jose Ramirez getting a tune-up. Yeah, Anne-Marie Rivera saying, not watching boxing this weekend. Oh, yeah. I know, right? UFC is going to win out this weekend, but they always do. This is their weekend, let's be honest. But yeah, I just want to quickly at least make note of the fights this weekend for boxing as we head into the boxing portion of the show. And let's get into it. James DeGale vacates his IBF title. No Jose Uzcategui fight. And obviously right after that, Jose Uzcategui is now the full champion, and the IBF orders Caleb Plant fight. This news broke yesterday, I believe, as well. I don't know really what to make of this. Like, I think Uzcategui was going to really hurt James DeGale, to be honest. And if James DeGale wants to go and collect big paychecks against the winner of George Groves versus Callum Smith or Billy Joe Saunders, which that seems to be the likely matchup for James DeGale moving forward. Excuse me. I don't mind that. Like, I never fault anyone in this fight game trying to get the biggest check, so to speak. Because look at what's happening with guys like Max Holloway. Like, you never know when it's over. You never know when you can't fight again, or you're off a fight, or you just can't take a punch anymore. And James DeGale, let's be honest, has been looking kind of shot. He hasn't been looking like he's the James DeGale that beat Andre Durrell. Like, that James DeGale is far and away gone. You know, and I think a Jose Uzcategui versus Caleb Plant fight is phenomenal. I think that's one of those. Whoa. It's just one of those. It's just hype. Like, it's one of those. Like, it's a fun matchup on paper. You have Caleb Plant, who is a pure boxer with no power, and Jose Uzcategui is an underrated boxer, unorthodox, awkward, and delivers power in both hands. That's a fun matchup on paper. James DeGale was not. That was a clear, I think, win for Uzcategui, and for probably low money. So I don't blame him. It's one of those where I saw a lot of hate for James DeGale on Twitter and such. I don't think it's warranted, to be honest. You know, I might be deemed, I don't know, a shill or something, but you want the fighters to get paid. You know, we're going to talk about a fight later on for a unified champion, and they're not getting paid over $25,000. So, you know, let's always put this in perspective. Jonas switching back to the UFC shit, saying, Matt, they should make 165-pound division, 195-pound division. Definitely, I will be putting a topic and question post on patreon.com/Mixed Combat Radio. It's absolutely free to the public. So if you're not on Patreon, you can still write that question in, and I'll address it on championship rounds exclusively. Otherwise, we're in the boxing portion now. Come on, we're boxing now, Jonas. Come on. What are you doing? What are you doing, Jonas? Come on. But yeah, shout out to James DeGale for trying to get the bag, and shout out to Jose Uzcategui, who's now a champion. I mean, salute to him. Salute. Another sort of news announcement: Sergiy Derevyanchenko IBF purse bid postponed until July 10th, which is next week. Due to Eddie Hearn and Lou DiBella wanting more time to negotiate and reach an agreement for the 160-pound championship match. I don't blame them for that, because I know that's usually how they do it, to try to get a more even split for both guys and make everyone happy. So I don't fault them for that at all. Expect an announcement probably next week, probably Sunday or Monday, I would say, of this fight being announced. Definitely one of the better fights that could get made for that vacant belt that I can think of. The only other one that could be better would be like a Jamal Charlo versus Daniel Jacobs, but we know that's not happening until both guys have a belt or one of them is falling off. Speaking of probably a bigger star and bigger sort of announcement, Anthony Joshua's next two fights set for Wembley, September 22nd and April 13th. This was kind of assumed and known, but it's sort of set in stone now, where it's like a signed deal, so to speak, with Anthony Joshua guaranteeing that his next two fights are in Wembley. Again, sort of that announcement that we just sort of have to say is what it is. Obviously, Povetkin fight has not been announced yet. You know, it's unfortunate that it's still taking this long. I think they should probably do it sooner. Come on. And obviously the thought is Deontay Wilder at Wembley in April. Come on, Wilder, get that shit signed already. I want that fight. Speaking of some other more, I don't know, what kind of news would this be? Is this... Yeah, this is kind of shocking. Well, not shocking to me, but it's... The people that thought Saddam Ali was, quote-unquote, set up against Jamie Munguia have more sort of ammo to use. Not saying it's true. I think Oscar realized that he has a young, giant, undefeated Mexican champion, or let's say before the Saddam Ali fight, contender. If he wins, I want to make sure I get him because I can promote this guy and make money off of him. And that's what happened. I don't necessarily think that he wanted Jamie Munguia to win, but I mean, in the long run, it's probably better. Like this, Jay Project saying, why is it shocking? It's not really shocking. It's more, diabolical. Like, it's De La Hoya with the monocle and the top hat, you know, like snickering to himself, like, I've done it. Like, I've got Jamie Munguia. You know, I think that's sort of like my perspective on it. Like, I see De La Hoya in a dark room with a cigar, petting a cat, going like, You know, I like Dr. Evil status, thinking like I did it. Like I've been able to get this guy. And even though it's not 100% set in stone that De La Hoya has a multi-fight contract with like Jamie Munguia, the next fight for Jamie Munguia is promoted by De La Hoya because he had an option on it. And all signs are pointing to them having a future relationship. I'm not surprised. It's again, it's just one of those things. It's a promoter move. You know, it's a money move, whatever you want to call it. Like you can hate on it. You can hate on De La Hoya for in a sense, promotional malpractice against a guy like Saddam Ali. Or you think, I mean, that's smart business. You traded in a much smaller welterweight who jumped up a division, who has knockout loss on his resume, who's not the best boxer, who doesn't have the highest ceiling. And you traded him in for an undefeated Mexican champion who is a giant for that division, with insane knockout power. It's almost a master stroke. Like, I want to say that. Like, it's a great move from De La Hoya if you're thinking pure business sense. Like, yeah, good job for him. Jay Project saying he's only 21, 29-0, like 25 KOs. He's 6 feet, youngest world champion right now. He has that potential. Oh, and he said Munguia will be a Hall of Famer, all-time great. He has all the tools to be. Whoa. Come on.
Stay in your lane.
Come on, Jay Project. What are you doing here? I'm not going to go that far. I think he had one of the breakout performances of the year against Saddam Ali. I would go that far. Like, he definitely put himself on the map to where, and had this sort of performance where if he fought, like, let's say, a Jared Hurd, December or first half of next year, would we really think that's not an even fight? Like, would we think that Jared Hurd can easily win that? No. I think Munguia is a definite player in the division. Saddam Ali was not. Again, another great reason why this is a good move for De La Hoya. I don't blame him for what he did, for quote-unquote setting up Saddam Ali. I understand the criticism of it. But if you're thinking, chessboard moves, this is a chessboard move. He now has a undefeated player in a division with guys like Jamel Charlo, Austin Trout, Ezelandia Laura, Jared Hurd, etc. Jamie Munguia is going to do good, and then plus he can move him up a division. You don't think they can put Jamie Munguia and fight Triple G? Like, that was mentioned before. You don't think they can happen now with Golden Boy as a promoter? You don't think Jamie Munguia can have a good fight against a guy like Daniel Jacobs even? Billy Joe Saunders? Like, I'm not saying he's going to beat these guys, but he's a player. He's a contender. You can tell he has the skills to at least compete at this level. Maybe not win it all, but definitely compete. That power and that timing and that accuracy, unreal. Plus, he didn't break a sweat in that fight. Let's just be honest. Stitching back to the sort of George Groves versus Calvin Smith, what's going to happen and all that. World Boxing Super Series, by way of the IFL TV and Kale Sutherland interview, saying the Groves versus Smith fight will likely take place in September, but admitted it is unlikely to be in the UK. This is another personification of why the World Boxing Super Series has fundamentally failed at promoting. You have a all-UK matchup with two guys that have, from my knowledge, exclusively fought in the UK. And you're telling me you're going to put that fight not in the UK? Where would it be? Like, I fundamentally do not understand where this fight could go beside the UK. And the fact that they're even mentioning it, and even though it's not set in stone, I'll give them that. Maybe, there's public outrage and they go, hey, we got to put it in the UK somewhere in the UK. Fuck, even Ireland maybe. But if it's not in the British Isles, they put it in France, Germany, Ukraine, Italy, Spain. Where the fuck are they going to put this fight? In the U.S.? That makes no sense. I don't know about this move. This is so stupid to me. Yeah, just I want to give gunshots to him, because that's, for all the right moves the World Boxing Super Series does, they pull this shit. And this is probably the first step in promoting a fight is location. Where to promote it? Where's the easiest place to promote a fight? Where can I make the most money off of promoting a fight? It's in their hometown or home country usually. God, it's so fucking frustrating. World Boxing Super Series, please.
Stay in your lane.
Please. I don't know what you guys are doing over there. God, another gunshot for them. That's just... That is upsetting, to say the least. I don't know how that's possible. But, to just, you know, give them a little more, maybe, credit. Nonito Donaire joins the World Boxing Super Series tournament at 118. Now, obviously, I don't like that he's draining that much weight. He just fought Carl Frampton at 126. I think it was even in catch weight, to be honest. I could be wrong about that. So him dropping 8 pounds, that's going to be rough for him at his age. And again, it's not like he is the guy in the tournament to win it. You know, he has a lot of competitors in that tournament that are concerning. Like Ryan Burnett, Zolanta Teti, Inoue, like all those guys beat Nonito Donaire. It's not one of those where like he's a name to sort of get some respect and recognition for the tournament, and you hope one of these young guys that's a little more undefeated, in the prime, you hope they beat a Nonito Donaire and sort of get that rub, get that stardom from him. And speaking of the World Boxing Super Series, in that same tournament, they picked up Juan Carlos Payano. Not really surprising, let's be honest. A guy that's sort of been around, always been sort of the gatekeeper, perennial top 10 guy. Another guy that, you know, has fought everyone, and if a Inoue or Tete beat Payano, it gives him a little more recognition, probably is the best word again to use. But that tournament or that division has Emmanuel Rodriguez, Jason Maloney, Ryan Burnett, Zolan Tete, Inoue, Juan Carlos Payano, and Nonito Donaire. One spot left for that. But yeah, I mean, it's shaping up to be a good tournament so far for that division. Moving on to another fight announcement. Overall card announcement, too. Andre Berto versus Devin Alexander. Peter Quillen versus J. Leon Love. Marcus Brown's going to be on the card. Luis Collazo's going to be on the card for August 4th in New York at the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum. So it's one of those where it's for PBC cards and sort of these level of cards. You know, it's pretty decent, I would say. I mean, you have Peter Quillen on the card against J. Leon Love. I like that fight. It's a competitive matchup with those two respective guys, even though we know that neither guy is really going to be something in that division. But at least it's a competitive matchup between two guys we know. Also, I think Marcus Brown and Luis Collazo on the card sort of beefs it up and adds some depth to the card, or at least the telecast that we're going to see on Fox. And it's going to be main Fox, not Fox Sports 1. But just want to make note of this announcement. A lot of names that we know on one card on Fox. I like that. And I think, isn't August 4th the same day as the Danny and Sean fight? Well, let me look that up really fast. Because if so, I can see, because they've done this sort of before where they put a Fox event as like a prelim to a Danny Garcia Sean Porter matchup. Man, they still haven't announced that on BoxRec? Wow. What's up with that? Hold on. Sorry about this. What is it? No, I don't see a date right now in the available timeline. Thank you, guys. Great headlines over here, people. Don't put the headlines in the headline, or the date in the headline. But I want to say that was a targeted date for Danny Garcia versus Sean Porter. It'd be interesting to see what they sort of do with that, how they sort of combine the two, if they do at all. Make one sort of a prelim event to it. They've done that in the past. Curtis Cooper saying Matt Porter and Garcia might get moved to later this in the year. You're probably right, especially with the amount of time they have to get together and promote it. It's upsetting, though. Come on. Like, that fight should have been announced already. Because think about this. If you hypothetically, put Danny Garcia and Sean Porter on that Fox event, why not? Then you have Danny Garcia versus Sean Porter for the vacant WBC welterweight belt in the main event on Fox. You have Devin versus Andre Berto as a co-main. And plus you still have all the other guys. Peter Quillen versus Jalen Love, Marcus Brown, Luis Collazo. That's a really good card that you put on massive free basic cable. Nope. Sorry. Way to go, PBC. Missing an opportunity right there. You have the time slot. Like, why not put your best foot forward? It's upsetting. More in the rumor mill section. Khalil Yaffe, WBA super flyweight world champion, said he wants that smoke. He wants that Sirakat Sor Rungsvi.
I want smoke.
Yeah, we know you do, Yaffe. We know you want that bag too. I love this matchup. I love it. I think it's one of the best fights you can make in that division, if not the best fight to make in that division, especially with Inoue moving up. So I think make it. You got it. If that is the fight to see. So I am ready to see that in the U.S. in October, which is the targeted date for a Yaffe fight. Throw that in there as a sort of Superfly 3 or whatever. I don't care. Get it together. Like, that's completely possible. Potential lunatic in the chat. Fighter IQ. Curtis J. Prodigy. AA Boxing and Blunts. So I want to quickly shout out to everyone in the chat still. Like Fighter IQ, a.k.a. Ron is saying, go check out his channel. Make sure everyone hits that like button. Yeah. Yeah, go do that. And speaking of potential lunatics, comment about Tony Yoka. He got suspended for a year for missing 3 PED tests. Now, it is a little bit confusing because this is all from France's anti-doping agency, the French anti-doping agency. Great name. But they say in this article that the AFLD, as the acronym is called, has revised that ruling, and the ban does not exist in the World Anti-Doping Code except in a rare case of assistance to the investigation. I don't know what that means. In terms of a rare case of assistance to the investigation, I don't know what that means. But apparently, he can fight in other sort of jurisdictions, so to speak. I don't know really what to make of this. It's one of those where if you've been listening to me for any bit of time, you know that I'm not this like staunch like anti-PD person that thinks that everyone needs to be tested every day of the year, all the time. I'm just not one of those people. I fundamentally am not. So I'm not blown away by this. I'm not shouting out the rooftop, oh, he's lost all credibility. Because Yoka's win against Dave Allen was absolutely impressive. He became a player in the division off of that win. He did. If you're looking at the young guys in the division, like a Yoka, a Daniel Dubois, Joe Joyce, even guys like Jeremy Miller, Dylan White, and obviously the champions, Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, former champions like Joseph Parker, guys like Luis Ortiz, the division's really heating up and adding a lot of depth to it. And Yoka had a phenomenal breakout performance I really don't care about this, to be honest. I think that he'll go fight somewhere else, even though he said he's not going to do that. He said he'll wait out his suspension. Fuck that, man. Go fight in the U.S. under Richard Schaefer, who's your sort of U.S. promotional deal. Well, because he has a media company deal and a promotional deal. It's kind of confusing. But yeah, go get the bag somewhere still. Why not, Yoka? You're good. Like, no one really cares. Let's be honest. Last piece of news today. Unified champion Hickey Butler versus Felix Alvarado. Purse bid won by Samson's Boxing. I just want you to all realize this. The bid was $25,000. So Butler's going to get like 18 grand. Alvarado's going to get 7. Yes, for a unified championship fight in the junior flyweight division, they are sharing $25,000. That is insane. Man, that's not what you want to see. You always know that certain champions in certain divisions don't get a lot of money. We know that. But man, $25,000. Go support your local boxers, people. Go support your regional scene. Because fighters need it. You know, especially these low weight class guys, these more obscure guys. Even though Hickey Butler just had a great performance against Ryoji Taguchi, he won the unified belts off of. Yeah, it's upsetting to see this sort of fight get paid so little. Like, Felix Alvarado hasn't lost in like 4 or 5 years. Great knockout power. Like, he has like a 90% knockout rate. Hickey Butler's always an entertaining scrapper. It's going to be a fun fight, and they're getting paid $25,000 to get brain damage. You know, stitching back to the Max Holloway news, it's one of those you gotta support. You gotta support these fighters because they are literally putting their lives on the line, and sometimes for very, very little. But that has been the daily edition of MCR, hashtag MCR Podcast. Find it where all podcasts are. Live show on YouTube. Subscribe, like, share the show. Remember, 1,000 subscribers before the end of the month. That's our targeted goal. So share the channel, please. It is greatly appreciated. If you listen on podcast form, go back and share and like the show, even if you're not going to listen to it on YouTube. It definitely helps. I greatly appreciate it. Go to iTunes, leave a 5-star review. I will read them off. We have none right now. Come on. What are you guys doing over there? No iTunes reviews? Come on. Go and drop one over there. Find me on all these platforms. Matt Hunter, MCR, or at Mixed Combat Radio on all platforms. Peace. Have a good one. And see you tomorrow. Same time as always. 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. in the UK. And obviously on Saturday for our live fight chat for UFC 226. Enjoy.